spring season seed haul starts now. My name is Shelby. If you are new here, if you're a current subscriber, welcome back. We have seeds from Baker Creek. We also have seeds from MIGardener. If you haven't started purchasing your seeds or eyeing them, this will be a great video for you. Or perhaps you have already purchased your seeds and you might see a few things on here that you'll think, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Let's add that to the cart. Get prepared for the spring garden. Let's start out with the MIGardener seeds. So I am not doing this in any particular like assortment or anything like that. I'm just pulling them out of the pack that they came mailed to me in and just going over them as they come, because frankly I don't really remember what I ordered. As per usual, I get a little excited. I start adding a ton of things to the cart, which is super easy with MIGardener because all of the seeds are really cheap there. Generally, they have a really affordable price for the seed selection, which is why they're turning into one of my new favorite places to purchase seeds from. First, we have our light red kidney bush beans. I'm gonna be growing a lot more beans. I also am growing the pinto beans because I've really realized just how easy it is to store dried beans and cooked them in the Instant Pot within like 30 minutes. And before that, I was always kind of apprehensive, thinking I'd have to cook them and can them and do all sorts of things. But now that I use the Instant Pot, I am really seeking to grow more beans going into the spring season. I purchased the Silver Queen corn. I did have some very mild success with growing corn in the fall season, so I'm hoping to capitalize on that and actually have some more established rows of corn and have a much bigger harvest. And when I say I had a little bit of success with corn, I literally was able to harvest like 4 ears of corn. Very exciting for us, but I want to do better. I've never grown the Mortgage Lifter variety tomato. This is an indeterminate variety. The sizes get up to about 2 pounds per fruit. I love how it's kind of textured and ribbed, a little bit unusual looking, which would make it ideal for sandwiches. I am no stranger to the Muncher cucumber. They're an excellent variety. They're relatively pest tolerant. Most cucumbers, I mean, they're pretty intolerant to pests in general, but I do enjoy the size of these and how crunchy they are. I'm planning on growing more beans. I did grow black beans last year and it was a good success. This is a bush bean variety, and I do feel like sometimes the bush beans do a little bit better than the pole beans depending on the variety. I am a spicy loving gal. I love hot sauce, I love spicy things, but I also don't like it when it's way too overpoweringly spicy where that's all you're noticing about the meal. I feel like a serrano pepper is exactly what that provides. It's got some good mild and consistent heat without ruining the meal. You really only need like 2 plants before you're gonna think like, what do I do with all these serrano peppers? I'm also growing some spaghetti squash. I'm really going to focus on hitting the squash garden hard in the spring season, the early spring season, before those squash vine borers get around. Most of these squash varieties, especially a winter squash variety such as the spaghetti squash, are great to be stored for anywhere from 3 to 4 months. So I'm hoping that I'll get a big harvest out of these. I decided I wanted to grow some fava beans this year. This is the Broad Windsor fava bean bush. This particular variety is typically strong enough that it won't even need any support. These are massive pods, anywhere from 5 to 6 inches. They are a shelling bean. Fava beans are absolutely delicious. They're a little bit more work because you have to, of course, shell them. This will be a really cool thing to add to the garden. I was really excited to see this on the MIGardener website because the Cinderella pumpkin was modeled after this specific variety. It's one of the oldest heirloom variety pumpkins known out there, I guess. The pumpkins get to be about 20 to 30 pounds. They're edible. You can enjoy them, and I'm hoping that I'll have some success with the spring pumpkins. North Georgia Candy Roaster Squash. I have wanted to grow this for a few seasons now, and every time I went to buy it, it was actually like out of stock wherever I went to buy it. Everybody I have heard grow this has talked about how absolutely delicious this is. The vines are about 10 feet long. Fruits can be about 10 to 15 pounds. I mean, what doesn't sound better than some super sweet roasted squash? I've never grown the Cubanelle peppers, which are really popular in Italian cuisine. That is great for grilling, salads, soups, lots of different things. We eat a lot of peppers, and sometimes I focus too much on the really hot peppers and not enough on practical peppers that would just go into a lot of different dishes, and I feel like that's what this pepper would be because it has a really low heat index. We also have the jalapeno pepper. This is a Tam jalapeno. It's known for a moderate heat as opposed to the typical jalapeno, which I think is a pretty moderate heat personally, but this is supposed to have an even more mild heat. I think it's ideal because you want to grow things that you're going to actually eat and incorporate in lots of different meals. If a pepper has a little bit more mild of a heat index, there's going to be more chances that I'm going to cook with it often, especially because we have little kids. Red Corno di Toro pepper, as it's an Italian sweet grilling pepper. It says that it is world renowned for being the pepper of choice for roasted peppers. So that's probably what attracted me to this pepper. I've got the shishito peppers. It says in Japan, but these are some of the most highly prized peppers. I love shishito peppers. I think they are so flavorful. If you deeply roast them nice and charred with a little bit of oil and salt, that is all you need to enjoy this wonderful pepper as an appetizer. It is a little bit hot. I would say like 1 out of every 10 peppers is going to kind of like be hotter than the next, which is typical for peppers. It's definitely not so hot that you can't really sit there and enjoy multiple of them. Black Swan poppy seeds. Love poppies. They are my favorite flower. They're so beautiful, and somehow I managed to grow them every year here in Florida, which I feel like is a really big accomplishment. They do require a cold stratification, which means they want the seeds sown in a cold time of the year in order to germinate. It's also a light stratification as well. You just basically put them all over the surface in the cold time of the year and hope for the best in the spring. And typically, if I dump out an entire seed packet somewhere, at least a handful of the poppy plants will start to grow. I told myself this year, don't go crazy with the tomatoes. And I only purchased, I don't even know, maybe like 10 varieties of tomatoes. And I already have so many varieties of tomatoes, and I don't know why. I just like cannot help it with tomatoes. But here we are. I'm gonna try to control myself because last spring I think I had like over 50 tomato plants, and they were all producing. And it was like, what the heck do we do with all these tomatoes? I started canning things. Yes, I will do that this year, but I do need to get more organized because it was so much. So with that said, here are a few different tomato varieties from MIGardener, and I did get some from Baker Creek as well. Homestead tomato. I've never grown the Homestead tomato. It's an indeterminate variety, and it's well worth the garden space is what it says. Medium globe shape. I like the indeterminate varieties because I feel like they last longer. The silver fir tree tomato. This is a determinate variety, which means that they're going to just get to a certain size, set out most of their fruit, and kind of be done. It's a Russian heirloom variety, and it looks exactly like a fiery red ornament on a vine, which is perfect for its color and shape. So I just thought that would be a fun kind of smaller variety to incorporate in the garden this year. The Tigerella tomatoes, from my experience, these kind of striped looking tomatoes aren't always the most flavorful varieties. I haven't grown this particular striped tomato because there's a lot of them out there. They look really cool, and if anything, I can always can with them. It says that this is an English heirloom that grows tangy, bite-sized fruits that are red with orange stripes, and they're about 2 inches in diameter. So they're not like a very, very small tomato, but they're definitely not like the most sizable one either. I didn't even realize I purchased this many cucumber varieties. I showed you the muncher one, but this is also the beta alpha cucumber. It's ideal for snacking. It's about 5 to 6 inches in length. I have attempted to grow this beta alpha one, I believe, a year ago, and it just didn't work out. I'm a little bit more confident in my cucumber growing skills because of the timing. So I figured let's just give it a try this year. I also purchased the homemade pickles cucumber. It just seems like a really standard cucumber option. This is the Berg's, if I'm saying that right, buttercup squash. It looked just so like buttery and creamy in the middle. It looked like a really solid option. It is about 3 to 3.5 pounds per fruit, so it's not the biggest fruit, but it's definitely not the smallest one, and it's about 6 to 7 per plant. So I really want to get really strategic with where I'm growing my squash, because I don't want them all to be too close together. I'm going to have a big variety of summer squash options, which would be like your zucchini, the ones that have the very kind of tender flesh on the outside, and also I want a lot of winter squash, which have your typical kind of like harder flesh on the outside, and those are better for long-term storage. Speaking of squash, I have purchased the Winter Luxury Pumpkin. This looks so beautiful. It says that it's one of the most sought after culinary pumpkins in the world in 1893 variety because of its absolute fiberless flesh. Whatever that means, it sounded really delicious and really cool and unique, and that's kind of what my goal is here, is to grow things that are going to taste really good and produce really well. I got some dill seeds, which I can hardly even believe that I don't have dill seeds right now. This is the Mammoth Long Island dill. If you are starting a garden, don't forget to grow dill. Not everybody likes the flavor of it, but I, for the most part, grow it for the pollinators. It attracts so many different caterpillars and beneficial insects to the garden. They absolutely love munching on it, and there's so much to like go around for everybody that it won't even bother you if those little caterpillars are on there enjoying a nice snack. Moving on to the Baker Creek seeds. I'm so excited because Baker Creek, although they're not the most affordable option, they definitely have some of the most unique varieties out there. And what I did this time around was I picked all of my kind of bulk typical garden veggies from MIGardener because it's a really affordable rate. Now every year, without a doubt, they always have something really interesting that I think I've got to try that out. And here are a few things this year that kind of really sparked my interest. We've got the Korean long tomatoes, versatile for slicing and sauce, which is great for me because I'm trying to focus on more sauce tomatoes in the spring season. I'm of course growing San Marzano tomatoes. I'm already planning on dedicating a big chunk of the garden to the San Marzano tomatoes specifically. I've already got those seeds, which is why they're not in this video. I will probably grow about 10 to 20 of those plants. I'm going to probably grow about 5 of these plants because it says it's a really good sauce tomato. It's also a reliable crack resistant tomato, and I did have some issues with tomatoes cracking last year because what happens is we'll have a really heavy rain and those tomatoes will take in all that water really quickly and they'll start cracking. I got this strawberry watermelon. On the reviews, some people said it wasn't very flavorful or it was loaded with seeds, and then there was also people who said that it didn't have very many seeds and then it was so flavorful. I figured let's give it a try. I'm gonna give it my honest review myself. So far, the variety of watermelon I favor the most to grow is the Sugar Baby watermelons. I think those have a lot of flavor. There are a lot of seeds because we are growing heirloom varieties. These are not varieties that have been bred to have the seeds taken out of them, so definitely keep that in mind when you're starting to grow some of these heirloom watermelon varieties at home. There will be seeds in them. I do enjoy the Sugar Baby. I grew the Dixie Queen watermelons last year. I will say they didn't have a lot of flavor in them, and there was a lot of seeds. See if it's any different. With this, I actually went back and forth. I was like, you need to control yourself. You're buying so many seeds here. But I figured I'm gonna probably regret it if I don't get these seeds. This is new to Baker Creek. It's the brown sugar tomato. It's a Russian heirloom with a silky and smoky complex flavor, and it has notes of brown sugar in it. Not sure. I will tell you the reason why I was a little bit apprehensive of growing this darker variety tomato because last year I grew a few of like the black variety tomatoes. There were so many of them and I just didn't like the fruit. I was a little apprehensive, but then I figured it's gonna stick in your mind if you don't buy it, so just go ahead. I told y'all how I love poppy flowers. They are my favorite flowers, and I wanted to make sure I grew some red ones this year. This is the Scarlet Peony Poppy. Last year, I'm always able to grow the pink ones for some reason, and I just had a handful of the red ones. When the poppy flowers bloom and they come out into the garden, I can literally see them from the inside of my house. They stick out like a sore thumb in the best way. It is something that always just drives me out to the garden to stare at these flowers and just see all of the bees at work just absolutely enjoying themselves. Another poppy variety. This is the Hens and Chickens variety. The middle part looks huge and the plant itself is supposed to be up to 3 feet tall. They have purple and pink petals, so I feel like between the like actual purple, I think it was like a purple swan poppy, and the scarlet red one and this one, we're going to have a really, really cool mix of poppies. I wanted to grow some gigantic sunflowers this year. Now I plan to have a huge sunflower wall, as I always strive for, just going around the entire exterior of the garden. I figured what would be just absolutely more fantastic than gigantic sunflowers. These get to be up to about 14 feet tall, which is massive. I would say that's like probably more than twice the size of a typical sunflower that I grow. So I have some high hopes for these. I really want to make sure I'm strategic where I plant these. I'm not going to put them in any of my raised beds because I know they'll like it, but they're going to take all the soil out with them. So I'm going to just do like a wall of sunflowers down the garden. I think it's going to look so cool. When I tell you I forget what I ordered because I just go crazy when I order my seeds, I forget what I ordered. I've got another, and I think this is the last one, poppy. This is the Rose Feathers Poppy. Look at how cool that looks. It's all kind of like shredded, and we've got ourselves a beautiful flower garden in store for us. So that concludes the 2024 seed haul. I am so pumped for the spring garden. My next video is going to be on soil blocking. I'm going to start starting all of these seeds, take you guys along with me. Then we're going to get this spring garden officially underway. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like. That really helps me and it goes a long, long way. If you don't want to miss the videos coming up here, all of the super exciting things, definitely be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Again, my name is Shelby and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye.